This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch for Friday, November 20th. I'm George Thomas. Today, claims of widespread fraud, why the president's legal team plans to press forward in court. A historical visit serving a dual purpose. What the Secretary of State's visit to a Jewish settlement means for U.S. foreign policy. Coronavirus and its concerns on the rise, the plea from governors and doctors. And new protocols in the place for the NFL, the steps they're taking so the games can go on. Those stories and much more on NewsWatch today. President Trump's legal team prepares to file more cases in several states. This comes after his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, held a news conference Thursday alleging a centralized plan to carry out voter fraud around the country. But at this point, almost all of the president's legal challenges have been dismissed. CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy has our top story.
Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani said the fraud was widespread.
This is not a singular voter fraud in one state. This pattern repeats itself in a number of states, almost exactly the same pattern, which to any experienced investigator, prosecutor, would suggest that there was a plan from a centralized place to execute these various acts of voter fraud.
And attorney Sidney Powell talked about votes appearing out of nowhere.
Talking about some massive straight lines up in the vote tallies in the middle of the night after they've supposedly stopped counting. And that's when the Dominion operators went in and injected votes and changed the whole system.
Powell spoke of voting software being manipulated to change votes from President Trump to Joe Biden. Conservative Fox host Tucker Carlson pointed out Thursday night that Powell has said similar things recently, but when his show asked for evidence to back up her claims, they got none.
But she never sent us any evidence, despite a lot of requests, polite requests, not a page.
As for the question of evidence, it came up in Thursday's press conference. The Trump team said they aren't showing their proof yet. That will come in court. In other developments Thursday, Georgia finished its audit of the presidential race and confirmed Joe Biden won by more than 12,000 votes. The state also found no evidence of widespread fraud. The Trump campaign responded that Georgia's audit had included illegal ballots and asked for what it called an honest recount. President Trump is set to meet with Republican leaders of the Michigan legislature today at the White House to possibly discuss appointing electors who would support him. For now, his legal team will move forward with the challenges in court. Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
Thank you, Ben. On Thursday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made history when he became the first top U.S. diplomat to visit a Jewish settlement in Israel's biblical heartland. In the Bible, by the way, it's called Judea and Samaria, yet much of the world calls it the West Bank and wants it to be a future state for the Palestinians. As Chris Mitchell reports, the visit represented a dramatic shift in U.S. foreign policy.
Secretary of State Pompeo's visit to the Jewish community of Benjamin served a dual purpose. In addition to its historic nature, the stop at the Pizzagoat winery carried a strong business message. Pompeo declared that going forward, products produced in Israeli communities in the West Bank will be labeled Made in Israel. That move changed a decades-old U.S. policy. Pompeo also called the Boycott, Divest, and Sanctions movement, known as BDS, anti-Semitic, and that the U.S. would cut support to any groups participating in it. Pompeo also made the first official U.S. visit to the Golan Heights, which President Trump recognized as part of Israel in March 2019.
You can't stand here and stare out at what's across the border and deny the central thing that President Trump recognized that previous presidents had refused to do, that this is a part of Israel, a central part of Israel.
On Wednesday, the U.S., Israel, and Bahrain marked their first ever trilateral meeting in Jerusalem, the latest milestone in the Abraham Accords.
Today we're making history again. This is the first ever official ministerial visit from the Kingdom of Bahrain to the State of Israel. It marks another important milestone on the road to peace between our two countries and peace in the region.
Throughout all the meetings, it has been obvious the intention and keenness of all sides to ensure that the peace we are pursuing will be a warm peace that will deliver clear benefits to our peoples.
Pompeo emphasized the message sent to Iran.
These agreements also tell malign actors like the Islamic Republic of Iran that their influence in the region is waning and that they are ever more isolated, and this shall forever be until they change their direction.
Also Thursday, the New York Times reported the Palestinians are considering ending the so-called pay-to-slay program to gain favor with a potential Biden administration. This program pays convicted Palestinians in prison and their families up to $4,000 a month for terror attacks, including murdering Israelis. However, Itamar Marcus of the Palestinian Media Watch tells CBN News he feels it's unlikely the Palestinians will give up the program, since it's such a part of Palestinian society. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has said numerous times the martyrs and their families are sacred, and so are the wounded and the prisoners. Even if we have only a penny left, it will only be spent on the families of the martyrs and the prisoners. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Chris Mitchell joins me now live from Jerusalem. Chris, to discuss this historic move, it was really a historic move. Is there any indication that Pompeo's trip has many obviously wondering if he is eyeing a run for the White House in 2024? Anything to this speculation?
Yeah, certainly there is, George, and I think the speculation actually increased when he went to that Jewish community there in Benjamin. And also, he's done sort of what every Republican presidential candidate will do. He went to Iowa. That's the site of the Iowa caucuses. He went to the prestigious evangelical meeting. It's called the Family Leadership Summit in Des Moines. That's one thing. He made a major speech at the Nixon Library about China. He's also met with potential donors, and he would be part of a potential 2024 field, including Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, even Donald Trump Jr. So these are all some of the names speculated, and certainly Pompeo is added to that speculation with his visit yesterday.
Chris, in your piece, you talked about this whole idea of labeling products made in Israel instead of made in the West Bank. Talk about that.
Well, it's very important, George. You know, for decades, the West Bank has sort of been off limits to State Department officials over the Green Line. And last year, Pompeo announced something significant. He said that all the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria were not illegal under international law. And what he did yesterday takes this policy one step further. And it takes away the stigma of products made in the quote-unquote occupied West Bank. Many European nations prefer that label. But this runs contrary to that. And it recognizes that parts of the West Bank, biblical Judea and Samaria, are really part of Israel's territory.
There was a meeting with the representative from the Kingdom of Bahrain, another Arab country signing peace with Israel. Talk about the significance of all this and the potential maybe 10, 11 other Arab countries that are lining up to make peace with Israel.
Yeah, that was another historic meeting, George. Actually, it took place just a few blocks from where we are in the Jerusalem Bureau right here. And there are maybe 5 or 10 other nations really on the waiting list to go ahead and make normalized relations with Israel. It's really just part of this really historic Abraham Accords. It's quite something, and it is historic, just as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said.
Chris, you're the host of Jerusalem Dateline. What can we expect on this week's edition?
Well, one of the reports we have, George, is an on-the-ground report from northeast Syria. That's a new democracy here in the heart of the Middle East. They were really on the front lines of an invasion last year in October of 2019 by Turkey. But we have a frontline report. We have reports on a potential nuclear Iran, the rising threat of Turkey. And we also have a report on a renewal project from the iconic Tower of David Museum, the first renewal project since Suleiman the Magnificent in the 1500s. When he built the walls of the old city. So tune in, George, and I think you'll like this week's Jerusalem Dateline.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, you can see more news from the Middle East from Chris and his team tonight on the CBN News Channel at 9:30 Eastern. Coronavirus cases here in the U.S. and hospitalizations are surging in all 50 states. There have been nearly 200,000 new COVID-19 cases in the past day alone. The CDC predicts an additional 46,000 Americans could die from the virus in the coming weeks. The organization is warning Americans not to travel for Thanksgiving as new restrictions go in place across the country. It's a call that large hospitals and doctors are echoing.
There comes a point where our healthcare system stretches and eventually it breaks. And when that happens, it's too late.
There are signs that Americans are heeding the CDC's advice. United, American, and Southwest Airlines are all reporting a spike in cancellations for Thanksgiving travel. A panel at the World Health Organization say not to use the drug remdesivir to treat patients with the virus. The group says there is no evidence that the drug improves the survival rates of those diagnosed with coronavirus. Remdesivir is the first and only drug approved in the U.S. to treat the virus. It was used, by the way, to treat President Donald Trump, who tested positive for the virus last.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to CBN News. Polls show Americans often rate climate change near the bottom of issues that concern them. Yet advocates of the Green New Deal say Joe Biden now has a mandate to make climate change a #1 priority. CBN's Paul Strand explains why some believe he may want to ignore that call.
Climate change activists claim voters have backed plans for radical action.
We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan.
But new polling indicates most Americans aren't that worried about the climate issue. James Taylor of the conservative Heartland Institute.
When Joe Biden says that he has a mandate now to aggressively act on climate change, it's simply not true.
Putting a dollar figure on their feelings, Americans in an Associated Press poll show how little they're willing to pay to cut carbon emissions.
Just barely, a majority said they would pay $1 per month. When it came to $10 per month, not even close. 3 out of 4 said they won't do it.
So what might Americans be forced to pay if an aggressive climate agenda is pursued?
Joe Biden says that he will invest $2 trillion in that. That is $20,000 per household.
And Taylor accuses Biden and his allies of lowballing what various analysts figure the real tab would be.
$10 trillion, which is $100,000 per household.
Climate activists and their allies warn Americans have to count the cost of not having something like the Green New Deal.
We spend billions of dollars now, billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming.
They argue the damage from an unchecked climate by the end of this century will be shaving anywhere from 4 to 10% off America's annual gross domestic product. In other words, trillions of dollars. But is there a chance Americans could keep a major new government project out of the equation?
America has reduced its emissions more than any other nation in the world throughout this century. In fact, our emissions are now down to 1992 levels.
The Biden-Harris team have also said they want to get the U.S. right back into the Paris Climate Accord. But opponents point out that'll force unbelievably large cash contributions from an America already doing so much to battle carbon emissions, while the real polluters like China and India do little. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Welcome back to CBN News. The National Football League has new protocols in place as it heads toward the postseason. This, as a fan favorite, makes sports headlines this week. Matthew Slater is the special teams captain for the New England Patriots. He's now on the Patriots injury report because of a knee injury. In an earlier conversation, CBN Sports Director Sean Brown learned that Slater is a man of faith.
New England Patriots' Matthew Slater is one of the NFL's most respected players. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion and a 7-time Pro Bowler. Now, while those are impressive accomplishments, Matt says he remembers a time in college when he once considered leaving the sport he loved.
I was prepared to transition away from the game of football because, I didn't know what my opportunity would be at the next level. But I think through that, God kind of showed me, hey, you're not Matthew Slater, the football player. You need to understand that your mind and your purpose and calling is higher than that of an athlete.
Matthew grew up in Orange County, California, the son of Pro Football Hall of Famer Jackie Slater. His mom and dad raised him and his younger brother David with strong Christian values.
7 years old, I remember my dad sitting down and kind of laying out the plan for salvation, telling me who Jesus was, telling me why I needed him, and just understanding who I was and who God was.
Matthew was a standout in football and track in high school. But by the time he went to UCLA on a football scholarship, life was all about him and what he could do on the football field.
For me, football-wise, was really a struggle. I think when I went into college, a lot of my identity was tied up in being a football player, son of a football player.
Did you ever feel pressure to live up to his likeness, to live up to his legacy? Obviously, you played different positions.
You know what I did? Not from him, though. I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations. You know, this Jackie Slater's son, Pro Football Hall of Famer, he's supposed to be a certain way. He's supposed to act a certain way. His level of play is supposed to be this.
But when Matthew missed his entire freshman season and the first 3 games of his sophomore year because of injuries, he became angry because his football career wasn't going as well as he had planned. So he asked God for an explanation.
And I kind of just was like, what am I doing here? Like, I had these plans, Lord. This is how it was supposed to go, and it's not going that way. I was asking why, and it really came from a selfish place. It was why am I not benefiting personally?
That's when Matthew considered walking away from the game, until he realized that the problem was himself.
I think for me, it was me. You know, we talk about idols and putting other things. It was football. It was my status as an athlete. It was how people viewed me. It was man-pleasing.
That night, Matthew called his father.
My dad kind of just sharing scripture with me and talking with me and helping me see and understand that, hey, it's not about you all the time, son. And sometimes the Lord has plans for your life that you can't even see and understand.
It was then that he decided to follow God's purpose for his life.
How did you change after you made that decision to live wholeheartedly for Christ? What changed?
I think I had a lot of anger and frustration. I think I was just a little bit more free and at peace with, you know, the Lord's will. And I didn't wrestle with God as much about, you know, that's how I want to do things. And I think that peace and freedom was really, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Right. And, you know, I just felt like a different person altogether, no question.
After his senior year, Matthew entered the 2008 NFL Draft, knowing at the end of the day, it was in God's hands. And he was selected in the 5th round by New England. Since then, he's proved that he's his own man, one that's not defined by his accomplishments on the field.
I'm proud of what I've accomplished on the football field. I've been extremely blessed, but it's not who I am.
Now as a team captain, Matthew understands the role God has given him as a leader on the field and in the community.
You know, I think when you talk about leadership on that team, I think I'm there to serve. And I look at leadership and how it was best modeled, it was through Jesus Christ. And he came to serve, he served people. So as I embrace leadership on the team, I've always tried to be transparent and just serve people. You know, that's what I really feel like I'm here for. It's never really been about football. That's just a byproduct. I think that it's been about building relationships, and the Lord has put me here to make his name more famous. And I think ultimately that is my purpose in life, is to serve and to point the finger in the direction of Jesus Christ.
CBN Sports Director Sean Brown joins us live now to discuss the changes for Slater and the rest of the NFL. Sean, Matthew has a knee injury. Does this affect his future ability to play?
Well, I believe right now it's a minor injury. You know, they say the NFL stands for not for long. Yeah. And so like Matthew Slater conveyed through his piece, he's playing for something bigger, man. If you're a professional athlete, you really have to you got to be playing for more than just a game because, again, not for long. You don't know when you're going to be out. But he's used to injuries. He'll be back. He may miss the game against the Texans this weekend, but he'll probably make it back next week or the week after. And so a guy like him, he can lead from the back, man. He doesn't have to be out front. He's still going to be a leader whether he's injured or not. Yeah. And so, yeah, he'll be back. He'll definitely be back.
Sean, the NFL is imposing stricter social distancing rules on all teams this weekend. What changes are in store for the players?
Well, the biggest thing is now they're executing what's called an intensive COVID-19 protocols. And the biggest change is that right now, before that, players were being tested daily. Well, now they have to bring their prior test results from the day before, as well as the current days, the present day's test as well. They're making some structural changes about whether, you know, when players can meet. It's going to be virtual now, which is going to be hard because now we're approaching the end of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how teams are able to continue that camaraderie with injuries, with, you know, just trying to connect and make sure they're on the same page as they push towards the end of the season. But these protocols, I mean, the NFL's top notch, and so they've been able to figure it out. And it's really just about making sure they man the rules as the country, COVID cases continue to rise. The NFL is basically doing their part to protect the players, the staff, and everybody else in those cities. And so it's really just making sure that they're remaining strict with these protocols.
Sure. Last 30 seconds, Sean. Will the NFL be able to finish the season without major disruptions?
I believe so. I mean, like, again, the NFL's they've been ahead of things. There have been cases, but most of the players have been able to make it back. And because of those protocols, I do believe that they'll finish the season. Maybe some challenges. I don't know that this will be the last case of COVID that we hear in the NFL. But for the most part, with these intensive protocols, I do believe that they'll finish the season and make it, into the postseason, into the Super Bowl.
Okay, terrific. And you can enjoy more of Sean's insights Saturday and Sunday nights. Going the distance with my man, Sean Brown, airing Saturday at 6:30 and Sunday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm Ephraim Graham. Welcome to Studio 5.
Get on it.
All that's new and now in the world of uplifting entertainment with celebrity interviews.
There's a higher contribution I will make.
Musical performances.
I'll give you my best praise.
Plus movie and TV news.
See it and be uplifted.
On Studio 5. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern at cbn.com/Studio 5.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
And finally on the broadcast, a California pastor is singing his way to the top of a television competition. Jim Ranger is a campus pastor and worship leader at New Life Church in Bakersfield, California. He secured his first spot on Team Blake during the blind audition. Well, this week he made it past the knockout rounds. Next week, he'll compete again in the hopes of making it to the live stage performances. Well, folks, that's it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our exciting news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with us at cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing us at newswatch@cbn.com, or you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. From all of us here, the headquarters of the Christian Broadcasting Network in Virginia Beach, Virginia, have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend ahead. Goodbye and God bless.